What is going on, people? Welcome back to Chelsea Fan TV. Welcome back to another live stream. You got me with yourself this time, going over a few bits on Maresca, go over the Leicester game a little bit, just touch on a few things that have come out over the last couple of days. Not been too much news today about Chelsea. We'll touch on what we can, and hopefully there's a bit of interaction with you guys in the chat. We'll go from there. Big it to everyone that's watching. Big it to everyone that's joined at the start. See a lot of comments from Jordan. Big up Jordan. Big up Andrew as well. So yeah. First of all, just quickly because I saw this was one bit of news. It's 120 years now, I believe. The Chelsea have been a football team. Chelsea have been going on, so I think that's incredible. That we've been going as long as we have, and everything. And hopefully it's many more years, and my kids and everything can get to see Chelsea, get to back to where we want to be. But yeah, as I said, big up to everyone that's here. I think with what's happened from Leicester, I'll give my kind of quick comments on the game. I think the game was quite poor. From my perspective, I thought that we had a lot of the ball. But I thought the chances we created were minimal. Didn't think there was too much going on. It was a lot of outside the box chances. It was a lot of crosses. Had a couple of chances we should have scored, and Kunku at least had one should have scored on. Had the penalty, definitely should have scored on, and we'll touch on Cole Palmer a little bit later. And then what else was there? There was Kukurea goal, obviously. Enzo chance at the end. I don't really think that's a massive chance, considering it's Enzo. Also, maybe it's different, but we know he's not the best in terms of front of goal. But yeah, overall, I didn't think it was the best game. It's one of those games where you get the 3 points. The performance is quite crap, but you just kind of move on and hope it's a blip, and you hope that we perform against Copenhagen. I don't think we will, based on how we've been performing lately, but you just hope you can take something forward. Big thing I want to speak about, and the reason for the title and where kind of my thoughts on this came from is just there's been a lot of noise since the Leicester game about Maresca, and whether it's tactics, whether it's player selection, or although I think that's died down a little bit in recent games, whether it's the celebrations. That's where ultimately I want to start, because I think personally policing celebrations is dumb, right? Like, that's just where I stand on it. I think trying to tell a manager or players or even fans at times how they should celebrate, I think is stupid. Like, I think that's dumb, personally. Because I think people can react how they want to react. I think that's the beauty of like debates and sport and everything in general, right? Is that people can have different viewpoints, they can think different things, they can experience things in different ways. Why two people can watch the same football match and think completely different things? That's part of the beauty of it. So I think, yeah, the whole policing of like, oh, that's celebrating after winning 1-0 against Leicester, let them celebrate, because we'd be the same people if the fans that I was there for Brighton at home, not home, sorry, the away game, the 3-0 loss, and like the players didn't come, like outside like two players, no one really clapped the fans. Like Maresca didn't. Most of the players went down the tunnel. It's like, if that happens, you're getting onto their back then. And if you get, like, they celebrate, even though it's only a 1-0 win, and you get onto the back then, they can't win. So I just think it's stupid. I think there are other reasons to be annoyed. I think getting annoyed at them for, celebrating clearances, like in the 88th minute or whatever it was, celebrating the end of the game, I don't have an issue with that. I think of all the things you could take issue with that Leicester game, I think there's a few things that to me just isn't one, personally. Just gonna go through a few of the comments, because I think Jordan is big ups. Jordan has left a few of them. Football is really boring. I understand. I don't. It is kind of boring, but I think that's a mixture. I don't think that's all down to the manager. I think some of that is down to the players that he's been given, and where we're at kind of as a team. And yeah, we do keep playing the same tactics as well. I agree, but yeah, like there's so many issues with this team at the moment. But I don't think a lot of them are down to Maresca. I think he has his faults. I think I've maintained that over the past few weeks and months. But so much of my issues with this team comes to the way it's put together. Like, there are certain players based on that game the other day that I look at and go, "You're finished." Like Robert Sanchez. I know Sean's asked a couple of times about Jorgensen. Robert Sanchez and that whole situation. That's a mess, and that is something actually I do put on Maresca. I know it's a bit of a like going all over the place, but let's touch on the goalkeeper situation, because I think that is something you can, put on Maresca. You can have criticisms for, because for me, I don't know why Jorgensen came out straight up. Don't know why he was dropped. Don't think there was any reason to. Outside, yeah, he conceded that goal against Villa, but he then played the next game. So don't know why against Southampton. So I don't know why he was dropped. Had a good game against Southampton. And yeah, and then these comments that Maresca came out with afterwards, saying we don't want to do what we did earlier in the season where we're chopping and changing goalkeepers. Like the reason why we changed goalkeepers was because Sanchez was and still is the joint highest player in the league for errors leading to goals. And that's just the ones the Premier League have recorded. That's not even including some of the ones that like myself and others think is his fault and has led to a goal. So that's why he was dropped. So the fact he's back in and it's his first game back and everyone's seen it, the stupid Superman dive that he misses and we nearly score an own goal. Like without Colwill, we concede in that moment, either because with Tosin, he scores the own goal, and then I don't know who it was, whether it was Vardy or someone else coming in, and Colwill has to get it, kind of away off the line. They weren't threatening us really up until that point. Like they were getting in a couple times for our midfield, but couldn't really get past our defense until that moment. And it's always Sanchez. It was the exact same in the reverse fixture at Leicester. We were comfortable in the game. There was no issue until he decided to do something stupid, and all of a sudden we had pressure on us. It's been the same both games against Leicester. He is an awful goalkeeper. He is the worst keeper I have ever witnessed at Chelsea Football Club myself. He's worse than Schwarzer, Hilario, Turnbull, all of these. He's worse. He's terrible. He's worse than Kepa. He is genuinely awful. But yeah, so I don't know why the goalkeepers kept needing to be switched. Like, even if you wanted to keep Sanchez as your number one the whole season, that is better than this chopping and changing nonsense, because you can do that in the cups. We see that all the time. Pep, Klopp, some of the great managers, Ferguson, Mourinho, they all had cup goalkeepers. You rotate your cup goalkeepers. You don't rotate your goalkeepers for the league. That's dumb. That's straight stupidness. Like that's idiotic. But yeah, and so that's for me one point of contention with Maresca, and I think anyone that has that criticism is warranted. It's definitely warranted. Like I said, it's stupidness. Outside of that, I think the personnel he's choosing, like the Colwill thing, is annoying me. But at least with the centre backs, my view on the centre backs is outside of Fofana, and even Fofana to say he's the best, I don't think that means much. Because to me, Chalobah's our second best centre back, and he's been outside of one game in absolute doo doo since he's come back. I think Colwill's been doo doo since about halfway through the season. Tosin is he's probably the most consistent centre back we have, but I don't think that means much. Like, he's consistently like a 6 out of 10 most of the time, which is like, that's cool. But it just means you're not a 7 or an 8, but then you're also not a 3 or a 4. So it's like he's just kind of consistently average. And then the other two French dudes, one of them doesn't play for us anymore, so I don't think it's really worth speaking on. But yeah, I think our centre backs are so interchangeable, really, outside of Fofana, and I think that's more of a profile thing more than anything. I think all our centre backs are so interchangeable, so it doesn't matter. I don't think there's one centre back that's head and shoulders above the rest. Even Fofana, I don't think he's head and shoulders above everyone else. He spent the first third of the season being terrible, and Cole spent the first third of the season being very good. So yeah, that's one area where, like, I don't think it matters who we have at the back. I think that this is another topic for another day. But just gonna touch on the window ever so slightly. Like, the centre back has to be one of the top 3 positions we look at in the summer, without doubt, without question, without anything. That has to be like Gehi or someone better needs to be in minimum. But yeah, just going to go through a few of your comments quickly. Just going to touch on the one I mentioned with Sean. Why did you always not play yesterday? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. It looks like he's relegated back to number 2 now as well, which I don't understand why. I don't understand. If he's now number 2, why did you feel the need to play him for like 3 games in the league or 4 games, whatever it was? I just don't understand it. Don't understand it at all. There's a couple of questions about Palmer. I'm going to leave those for the moment just because I will touch on him in a bit. There was another question I wanted to touch on. I've heard that we're interested in Joe Bellingham. I have not heard this. If this is true, like, there's something wrong with this club. If we do indeed side Joe Bellingham, which I don't think we will, but if we do, it will be the 16th midfielder we've signed since these sporting directors have since the owners have joined the club, because we signed some in the summer. 16, and we paid 2. Well, 3 kind of, but let's say 3. That's 13 that can't play. Realistically, that's only 2 more in the match day squad on the bench. That's 5. That's 11 that can't play. Like, what? Sorry. How? If I speak. Yeah, I said I hope we don't. And if this Aston Villa want Disasi, he can go. Only thing is, like, I think we should try and get like at least 30, 35 million for him. I don't know whether they'd spend that. Like, they just bought. I'm trying to think what they spent on like their other centre backs. I don't. How much did Pau Torres cost them? Yeah, I mean, like, Torres signed for like 31.5 million, and I think he's better than Disasi. And like, when everyone's fit, I don't think Disasi starts. So yeah, I just don't think they're going to pay what we want to pay. Hopefully, it just means that like someone else comes in for him, we get rid of him, he goes wherever, we get some money in there, and we can put that towards getting an actual good centre back in. What else we got here? All I said about it's trash. I very much agree. Like I said, I'm not going Arsenal. I don't really go to a lot of games at the moment. People might call me plastic, but it's just a mixture of like time, money. It's not always the easiest to get to. And like, depending on when the game is, like, I always see my son on Saturdays. So if we have a game on Saturday, it's not always the easiest. So it's like, yeah, I don't really go to games too much. And I actually don't know where to get tickets most of the time. But yes, I'm not going Arsenal. I don't know the next game I'm going to go. I want to go to Newcastle away at the end of the season. But outside of that, I genuinely don't know when the next game I'm going to is. Apart from that, our fans say our team is poor, yet they want to manage to go through. I agree. It's on the owners and the sporting directors. I think the way they've set this team up, like, they hired a manager that had one style of play, and our fans are complaining about this manager's one style of play. But you knew, if you did any sort of research, but most of our fans don't, that this man was only going to play one style of play. So now he's playing that one style of play, but we don't have the players, especially with the injuries, to play that one style of play. And now people are pissing and getting mad at the manager for not changing his style of play. It's like, it's so backwards. Like, it's so backwards. And yeah, and like, I think we had this conversation previously. I think me, Charlie, and Alex might have had it on the Blue Balls podcast the other day, where I think someone asked us like whether we think we can be successful with Maresca, and I maintain, like, I think we can, provided the owners back him in the right way. Like, they go and sign a centre back that works in this system and is not necessarily elite, because there aren't many elite centre backs, but is of a very good level. You go and sign a goalkeeper that's of a very good level and fits the system. You go and sign a striker that's one of Osimhen, Isak, or Gyökeres in that order. You go and sign like an actual goal-scoring winger to help on one side, or you just got to accept that Noni's going to play because he's the only goal-scoring winger we have. You bring some of the midfielders like Santos and Ugochukwu back into the team and let them thrive. Like, you need to give him all the tools he can to succeed, so that if he fails, there's no one to blame but himself. Like, right now, people can have criticism of Maresca, but I don't think you can say that he himself is failing to the point where, like, he's the reason, basically. Like, he is the sole reason. And I think that's the issue. Like, the fact you can't say that, I think, just shows that, like, there's not much we can really do in that aspect, to be honest. Big up, Rain. Hello. Big up to everyone that's joined. We've got 31 of you watching. Smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. There's plenty more content coming over the next week, and in fact, all weeks from now to the end of the season, and even after the season, we've got transfers going on, Club World Cup, etc., etc. Now, there's a lot of comments about Cole Palmer. It's someone I want to touch on. I know Jordan, Andrew having a conversation about that, having a conversation about Jackson as well. Castillo mentioned about Jackson and Palmer. The Cole Palmer thing is interesting. It's something we haven't seen yet. Obviously, he's not far into his football career, let alone Chelsea career. It's the first time I think his I think there was a stat that came up in the middle of the game against Leicester. Ironically enough, I think it came up on the stream I was watching. It came up just as he was about to take the penalty. He's in his biggest drought since he's joined Chelsea, which he's gone 6 games. It might be 7 now with the Leicester game, but I think it's at least 6 games without a goal and an assist in the league. And you can see with the penalty, and you can see with his all-round play, there is something amiss with Palmer. And I'm not just talking about the illness, because I think for me that excuse is quite flimsy. Not because I don't think you can be ill, but my thing is if he's ill, hasn't trained, isn't feeling 100%, I think starting him is stupid. Now, I'm going to contradict myself a little bit in a moment, but just on that point, I think if Maresca's starting him in that situation, I think that's stupid. I think that's dumb. Just because, as I said, not trained, not fully fit, having an illness, you're setting him up to fail, because he's more likely than not going to have a great game, and he didn't have a great game, compounded by the penalty miss. Now, on the other hand, like I said, going to contradict myself a little bit. I think the issue with dropping it, Palmer, because I know a lot of people have asked for that, have said, is that one of the solutions? Do you take him out of the spotlight? All the things we've done with other players in the past. We just don't have the players to make that possible. I don't know about any of you. And tell me if you think I'm wrong and if you disagree. I'm not trying to see KDH in the 10, personally. I've seen it. It doesn't work. It looks ass. No, thank you. I'm not trying to see Nkunku in the 10. It's ass. It doesn't look good. He, for whatever reason, ability, fit, what's it called? Just wet mentality. Whatever the reason is, he is not working in this team. We saw it against Leicester. Palmer goes off. He goes in the 10. He was completely ineffective. I don't even remember if he. I think he might have touched the ball once after he went in the 10 before coming off. He's the first player I'm shipping out the door. I said this kind of as a joke, but it's not going to happen. You can't do this. But I said this as a joke on another stream. The minute the window opens, we're in America at the time during the Club World Cup, because I think the window opens the day after the Club World Cup starts. I'm sending him home, or I'm telling him not to come. I'm just telling him you can stay in England. We're not going to take you to the Club World Cup, and you can leave the minute the window opens. Now that's not feasible. I know that's not feasible, but that's what I do. He needs to leave. It's not working. He has not worked. Doesn't matter what position he plays in. He is not fitting in this team, as I said, for whatever reason. Those are the only 2 options you've really got to play in the 10, unless you're going to play Enzo there, and you're going to put Lavia now that he's back. In the team, but I'd hold off on that. The only other option you've maybe got is Sancho, and he's never going to play him there. It's we just don't have the players at the moment to take Palmer out, and it sucks because you kind of just have to play him into form, and that doesn't really ever work. But it's something we've got to try because we don't have the numbers there. And again, this comes back to you let João Felix go, and I've never been João Felix. Well, I tell a lie. Outside of his first season, I've never been João Felix's biggest fan. Especially this season was kind of the turning point for me, but he at least showed he could have some link-up play. He showed there was a little bit of spark from time to time, as he's got the little tricks and flicks that kind of work. End product's still an issue, but he had the link. He had the other stuff we've seen Palmer do. That's more than I've seen from Nkunku. That's more I've seen from KDH. So you could have used him. You could have got someone in to replace him, whether it was on loan. I don't know. There's players out there. There's always players out there. I'm seeing players go to La Liga, to the French league, to the coming into the Premier League. You've got Asensio just went to what's it called, Villa on loan from PSG. You're telling me you couldn't have done that deal for 6 months as a backup to Palmer or as a backup to one of the wingers? He's scored in every game he's played in, I think, outside of his debut where he came off the bench. We could have done something like that, but we didn't want to. That's fine. We're now suffering as a result. Yeah, I think with Palmer, unfortunately, we are in a tough position because there's not much we can do. Like, he just kind of has to play. And until there's not even an until, because like he just has to keep playing. But even when everyone comes back from injury, there still isn't an option there. Like, yeah, there's just not an option there. So he is one, like, I wouldn't start him against Copenhagen. I need to make that clear. Like, I would start one of Nkunku or KDH or something. But, like, we can't keep doing like one of those two in the league, because we're not playing Leicester every week. No disrespect to Leicester and Southampton, we're not playing them every week. So yeah, I think that's something that's got to change. But yeah, that's kind of my 2 cents on the Palmer situation. If you guys disagree, I'd love to like get your thoughts in the chat. And if you disagree on anything I say, again, like there's already been a few disagreements in the chat, but like as long as it's not, vitriol and hate, like, or like bit of back and forth is nothing. There's nothing bad. There's a comment I wanted to bring up about the goalkeepers. There we go. When we start with that shit with the new keeper, we have 4 keepers and at least 2 of them are world class. I'll correct you on 2 things. Number 1, we don't have 4 keepers, we have 9. And we don't have a single world class keeper. Like, we don't have a single world class keeper. There are very few world class keepers in world football right now. You've got Alisson, Courtois. I think Neuer's probably past that. Don't really hear much about Oblak anymore. I thought he was world class at one point, but I don't really hear much about him. Outside of those, like, yeah, I'm struggling to think of like really world-class keepers off the top of my head. I know some people argue Emi Martinez, and I can hear the argument. I don't know if I'd say he is, but I can hear the argument. But it's not that many. I would argue we barely have anyone that's great or good. Like, if I'm just going for our goalkeepers, I'm forgetting the youth ones, because why? You've got Slonina, who's injured. I like Slonina. I was watching him for a bit, like in the MLS when he was there for Chicago. Quite raw, but I like what I saw. There was a lot of talk about him having some good stuff. He was playing quite well. Obviously, playing for a very, if anyone watches MLS, but very, very bad team. Still look quite good. But then he had that loan last season in Belgium when it was just bad, playing for the worst team in the league. I think the loan this season for Barnsley was going really well. And then got injured, obviously. I think still injured now, got recalled for no reason. And yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the rest of the season, because he can't play. It's not going to be on the bench. It's kind of going to waste 6 months or whatever. Outside of him, you've got Penders. Like, Penders could be great, but he's played like 8 games all season. I'm going to hold off on him. He needs another loan next season. Kepa just stinks. Like, he's barely better than Sanchez. We've seen it for Bournemouth this season. Still conceding long shots. Still looking dumb. He's not good enough. Sanchez is Sanchez. He's the worst keeper I've ever seen. Jorgensen is like decent. He's not great. Yeah, like I think he's been one who, like, I wanted to see him play to see where he was at, but I think we see that like he is ultimately, he's a good number 2. I think he's a good number 2. Can play in like Europa League, play in some lower league. Like, he could play against the Leicester or a South. Again, I wouldn't do this with your keepers. He can play cup competition, so he can play in the Europa League or whatever if we're in there, or the Conference League. He's not a number 1. Petrovic I've always liked. Like, again, another one I watched when he was in MLS. He was the best goalkeeper in that league by a mile. He's the best goalkeeper that's ever played in that league, by the way, statistically speaking, like by a long margin. I know some people say it's MLS and this, that, and the other, but still got to perform. Came here, I thought was good. I always hated, like, I thought the criticism against him always, he's got this much in terms of stats, minus XG or whatever it was. Thought it was nonsense. Did have a first issue with like seeing his front post, but I also think that's a bit of a myth, personally. But then, did quite good in terms of, I thought his I thought his ball playing was good enough to the point where, like, not amazing in terms of like an Edison, but like he always knew when to clear it. He knew when to get rid of it. He knew when to like not mess around with it. And so I thought that was good. And then the like I just thought he was always able to improve. I mean, he's young. He's 25 currently. Like that's nothing. He's got another 10 years potentially playing at the top level if he can get there, which I believe he can. As a goalkeeper. And so, yeah, I thought he dealt a harsh hand, and I hope next season, if we're not going to go out and get a really great goalkeeper, which again, I don't think there's that many, I'd be happy to have him as our number one, provided you actually go and fix the defense. And then that's it pretty much. Like, it's those guys. Like, we just don't have, our goalkeeping department sucks. And I think it says a lot that we've bought, Penders, Slonina, Jorgensen, Sanchez. We bought 5 goalkeepers, and we don't have a guaranteed number one. Like, it's probably Petrovic, but it's taken a year playing in Strasbourg and being arguably the best keeper or one of the best keepers in that league for us to say, yeah, he can probably be our number one now. Like, you've got people in this fan base who are sat here saying that Mike Penders has an argument to be number one. In fact, I've seen some people on Twitter, and I know it's Twitter, don't want to take them seriously, but I've seen some people on Twitter saying that Penders should start for us next season. He has like 8 games all season and is 19 years old. He is not ready to play for Chelsea Football Club right now. Same way I said about Anselmino. Not ready to play for Chelsea Football Club right now. So these guys should not be involved. As I said, it's either Petrovic for me, or you go and address it properly with someone. Again, I just don't know who there is. I'll be honest. I just don't know who you go and get in that situation. Thank you for the kind words. I'll be honest. It depends where you see me. On what panels I'm on and what mood I'm in. Would depend how harsh I am towards some players. Some players I will just be harsh towards. Like, there are a lot of players, by the way. That I will try and defend. Like, I defended KDH and Colwell, for example. Like, just 2 examples for a while. But there's always a turning point in me with some of these players. Even Felix, that first season he came to us on loan, I like bigged him up massively, and I always thought that like people that gave him crap for like not finishing, not being clinical. I was like, but at least he's doing something. He might not be great, but he was the best of a bad bunch, right? But yeah, there's just some times where like, yeah, I just certain players just, and especially the ones I've like, the Colwell one hurts because of how much I defended him and how many problems he's shown just in terms of like from a mentality perspective. That hurts because of how much I defended him. Because we could have got 40 million off him, and I think we'd have been in a better position. Well, not better position is hard to say because these owners, but owners and sporting directors. But who knows? But yeah, I'm kind towards some players. I'm kind towards Madueke and Neto and Sancho most of the time, even though I thought he was quite poor against Leicester outside the first like 25 minutes. If the manager goes in the summer, who would you like to praise him? I have no idea. Like, I'm going to be honest. Whoever I say is not going to be who it is, especially if these sporting directors stay. The sporting directors need to go. From that point, I don't know who you go and get. Like, I like Iraola. It's probably a step too far, but I like the fact that he kind of just puts players in a system that works for them, and it's kind of a bit freestyle. It's a bit, I can't believe I'm about to say this. It's a bit Poch-esque, but not in a sense of like it's all a bit chaos and he's a bit of a coward when things go wrong. It's more like he just tries to put players in a system that's going to suit them. It's a bit like Poch at Tottenham, is what I'd say. Kind of like he kind of just puts players in a system that's going to fit them. Like, you've got like guys like Uatara at the time was playing at striker, still working even though he's a winger. You got Ryan Christie, who's a number 10 playing at DM and is working because sure, it's working. You've got like centre backs playing right back, and again, it's kind of just working. So I think that's good. I think that's a good quality. Outside of him, like I have no idea. Like I think that this is another conversation for another day, but just to quickly touch on, I think the landscape of football at the moment, in terms of the general level of football, is at an all-time low for me since I've started watching football. I think the level of manager out there is quite poor unless you're looking at your very top level managers. your Xavi Alonso's, your Carlo Ancelotti's, your Pep's. I'd put Flick in that conversation. I'd put Klopp in that conversation, even though I'm not his biggest fan. Like, you've got guys who are on the verge of getting there or on the right track, like your Schlots. Actually, I've put Alonso in that category. Your Alonso, your Schlots. Those kind of guys. But outside of that, yeah, it's just like the landscape's so bad, man. Like, it's so bad. So I don't know. Iraola, maybe. Part of me wishes we got Schlott, I can't lie. And I like Maresca, but I'm just looking at what he's doing with that Liverpool team, and it does kind of depress me a little bit. Yeah, Iraola is the best answer I can give to you, honestly, and even I'm not 100% sold on that. Yeah, if you guys have anything different, like put names in the chat, like, because I'd love to see what other answers and give me a reason why. Because, like, by the way, if anyone says Mourinho, though, you and me will have a falling out. I would definitely say we need to. 100%. Like, the positions we need to focus on. If you could only sign 3 positions in the summer, it's centre back, goalkeeper, striker, nothing else. I don't want us to touch midfield. I don't want to. We need a winger, but not a winger coming in. I'm saying we could potentially. I don't know if people have seen about the Club World Cup thing. There's a potential for getting out the group stage with just qualifying. We could make like 250 mil or something like that. I don't know what it's going to be of it, considering you're getting $1 billion for winning the thing. If that's the case, number one, that pays for Isak or Osimhen. There you go. That's a striker situation sorted. Let's say we get Osimhen. That's 65 million. Cool. That leaves then like 190 million. Cool. That's like, we're not going to go and get a good centre back. Let's say 60 on Guehi. Cool. That's like 100 million left. Let's just go and say you want to get Kerbal. Cool. There's Kerbal. There's a keeper I really like that is potentially on the cusp of maybe getting to world class. That's 3 positions sorted, and then you've got a little bit of money left over for like a winger, say, or a left back, or maybe another centre back, or whatever, right? That's what we should be doing immediately. Like, if we're signing another midfielder, like I said, the Joe Bellingham thing, no thank you. If we're going back and look at Garnacho, sweet Mary, Mother of Jesus. If we're doing any stupidness like that, I'm not here for it. This summer, we say it every summer, but this summer is the most important summer in these owners and sporting directors' career at Chelsea Football Club. And the reason I say that, again, going off a little bit of a tangent of what we're talking about, but the reason I say that is because you've got a lot of players in this club at that point at a crossroads. You know, Santos coming back. We don't know what the situation is with Santos. We keep hearing different things. Well, not hearing different things, but like, we keep hearing they see him as one for the future. But there's always that thought in the back of our minds of like, what if we get a bid of like 60, 70 million from Bayern? And there could easily be that kind of bid. If Goretzka leaves, you got Kimmich getting older. Pavlovic is nice, but not sure whether he's the same level. No one else in there. That could easily happen, right? He's better than Lima as well, for example. We don't know whether he could be sold or not. You got Petrovic coming back. He should not be sold. Unless you're going to get Kerbal, he should not be sold. So what's going to be the situation there? Is he going to be brought back into the team? Is he not? Because I'll be real, if they sell those two, I'm done. Like, less so Petrovic, more so Santos. If they sell Santos, I'm fully tapped out of this, because it shows me that this is just buying and like, we're not even if we get you hit on players, like you hit on a Santos, you hit on an Esteval, whatever, they're just going to be sold. So it's like, what's the point? So I'm hoping they stay, and then we're in a position where, like, okay, cool. You said this season wasn't challenging for Champions League. Apparently, next season is Champions League. Cool. You need to sign players then that are of quality to get in the Champions League. So that means you're going to need to go and spend the big money, and you're going to go and need to sign your Osimhen's. You're going to go and need to sign a centre back like a Guehi who can potentially make the step up. You need to go and sign, a goalkeeper who has played in the Champions League or has shown they can get to that level. I'm not signing the Delap, because what's he shown? He's shown he can score 14 goals for Ipswich. Great. Jackson had 9 and 8 for Villarreal, and they got 14 for us last year. So what's that telling me? It's not telling me anything, because it's not even like his 14 goals have helped Ipswich stay up. Like, it'd be a different story. Like with Tony, for example, you saw he scored kind of a similar amount. In fact, like that second season, he scored like 20 goals, I think, or maybe more. It helped Brentford stay up. It helped them become a mid-table team. So you saw, okay, they're like a mid-table team, and their squad potentially at the time wasn't better than ours. So you think, okay, he can make the step up, and his fundamentals are very good. Now I think Delap's fundamentals are pretty good, but the step up is massive. You can't go from being a part of a team that's about to get relegated, and then going and playing for a team that's going to qualify for the Champions League. There are very few players that can do that. You got your Lavias, I think, was good enough to do that. You got Wijnaldum was good enough to do that. Outside of those two, like, I can't think of anyone else. I think Sissoko did more out of just like luck of being in that Tottenham team when they qualified for the Champions League. I think, if I'm wrong, correct me in the chat. That doesn't really happen that often. Like, obviously, you got like Robertson. Okay, was another one. And I'll be real, a lot of the ones I mentioned in Liverpool as well, where it's like you just had that who had Klopp, who was, again, as much as I don't like him, there was elements of his management style that was like able to do that. So yeah, it doesn't happen that often. So yeah, I don't think that's someone that you can get. He's the only striker we've been linked to really in recent time. Like all the other ones have died down. So yeah, for me, as I said, you got to go and get Osimhen or Isak. And it's those two, and then there's a gap, and then there's Gyökeres, and it's those three and no one else. And even Gyökeres, like I said, I'd rather go and get one of the other two. Osimhen is killing it in the Super League, man. Like, I think he might now be. Let me go and check. He might actually now be, because I think he got a goal yesterday. I think he might now be top goal scorer. Let me have a look if this wants to load. While it's loading, I will go through a couple more comments. Owner's going to keep buying more kids. Unfortunately, I think that's the case. The whole 16-year-old thing. There's so many things I could touch on in this video, and we only have an hour, and I think I'd be here all day. And none of you want to see that. But yeah, the whole kids thing's nuts. The whole 16-year-old thing that we keep signing 16-year-olds is nuts. But it's not going to stop. My only hope, again, actually, this comes back to what I said earlier about this summer, is like, hopefully us getting in the Champions League, if we get in the Champions League, fingers crossed, means that like they change up a little bit. They're still going to buy kids, but it's married with like buying your like players with a bit of experience, or buying like the kids at the top level. The players on the level of like your Miles or Vinny's or Rodrigo's or whatever. Like, I know not those players specifically, because those three are probably not leaving their clubs, but you get my point. Also an Osimhen thing, I was right away. He's one goal behind top goal scorer, so he's second. So like he's stepped it up massively. They're still top of the league. The Galatasaray is going to win another league title this season. That'll be 2, and then like at that point, like just like that to me, that's proven to me that he can perform at this top level. He's shown it every league he's been in. Scored double-digit goals in every single team he's played for. Every league he's played in outside of when he played for Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. That's what he did at Lille in Belgium, at Napoli, Galatasaray. I think it's 4 or 5 different leagues and clubs. It's nuts. Regarding Maresca, I was never fully on board with him since he started giving him Malang to pieces. I disagree with the reason I disagree with this is because we see managers do this all the time. Like, we've seen Pep do this. We've seen, Mourinho do this. Mourinho, like, we've seen our best ever manager do this with like some of our best players. Like, not do the full thing, but do certain things, like the whole Mata situation. One of the just another example, like I won't forget this because I've ended up reading about this. Like Van Gaal, when he joined Bayern, that was when they had Luca Toni, who was their player of the season 2 years running, top goal scorer in that league 2 years running. He told him leave because he didn't fit his system. Like, he didn't fit. He told the top goal scorer for the last 2 years to leave. So yeah, like I'm fine with him doing this, especially for some of the players, right? Chilwell, like, not to be too harsh, but I don't think he's good. I don't think he's not been good for many, many years. He doesn't fit the system. His passing has never been one of his positives have never come from on the ball, really, outside of him like crashing the box like Alonso used to do, ironically enough. In possession, he's never been good. Even when he was at Leicester, even when we were under Tuchel, it's never been his real positive or his real like key, like kind of part of his game. Gallagher the same. Like, people know my thoughts about Gallagher. I don't rate him at all. Even if I did rate him. The one thing he's never been good at is in possession. Never been good in possession. His best times have come when he's playing in a team that's playing on the counter, playing in a high pressing system, which we don't play. Like, it just wouldn't have worked. The other two, I kind of agree. I think the Carney thing's kind of sucks, especially seeing you see KDH come in and do nothing. It kind of sucks. But I think injuries have also hurt him as well. And then the Chalobah thing is just jokes. I don't even think the Chalobah thing, by the way, is on Maresca. I think that's on the owners. And the whole Chalobah situation is funny as fuck to me. Like, you isolated him, kicked him out of the team, told him leave, tried to shop him to for like 3 windows running or 2 windows running, whatever it was. Tried to shop him to everywhere you could. To loan him out, to then bring him back in January, and he's now starting games regularly. Obviously, he didn't start the other day, but he has been starting games. Like, it's a mess. It's jokes. And he's going to be they're going to try and sell him in the summer. And we're back in the same cycle. So it's stupid. But yeah, I don't think him doing this with certain players is all that problematic. I think that's fine. I think there are other things you can come down on Maresca for rather than this as to like why you don't think it will work personally. Like I said, maybe it's the stubbornness, maybe it's the kind of link with that lack of plan B, maybe it's the choice of like team selection in terms of who he picks and stuff like that. But I don't think this is a massive issue for me. Anyone know what's going on, Magic? No idea. I'll be honest. I know we haven't heard anything. I think the B sample is going to come back positive. He's going to be banned. He's gone for like, what was Pogba gone for? 18 months, I think. It was 4 years and then reduced to 18 months. So he's gone minimum 18 months. He's finito at this football club. He's finished at this football club. Which kind of sucks, but I also don't care. I don't think he was ever great. He was decent this season. Not amazing. It sucks. But honestly, that was a failed transfer from the beginning. I agree, by the way, Sean. I do think Sanchez starts against Arsenal. I need to check something before I give my thoughts on Sesko, because I have never been his biggest fan. What turned me on him fully? Actually, no. I thought he was decent like previously. Never been like massively hyped on him, but I thought there was potentially, oh my god, potentially a player there for the future. What turned me on him massively was the Euros. Like watching him play against England, he is everything that people thought John Duran was, where it's like he can just smash a ball at like 60 miles an hour and that's about it and has like nothing else. Just watching him, like I'm looking at his goal return. This is in the Bundesliga, by the way, a league notorious for being easy to score in. He went 12 games where he scored 3 goals, scored 5 and 5, got suspended, and has come back and in 6 games got 2 goals. Like, he's so streaky as a player. Like, even as a goal scorer. And I think he just falls in the same bracket to me. It's like, I'll be honest, I'd rather get Delap over Sesko personally. Like, I think him, Delap, like, I'm trying to think who else we've been linked with, kind of these kind of guys. It's kind of how I felt about Samu last season. Obviously, I might be proven wrong about Samu based on how he's done this season, but like, just these kind of guys, they don't move me. Like, they really don't move me. As I said, if you're going to do this kind of a little bit limited on the ball kind of striker, but a box presence kind of guy, go and get best in class with what's available. And to me, right now, and I'll highlight what's available, best in class for me is Osimhen or Isak, but I think Isak's a bit closer to Jackson in terms of like got all round game as well. Plus, he's then got the killer instinct. Outside of that, I agree about Nkunku, by the way, not being good enough. I mentioned that earlier in the stream as well. Like, just not it for me. Needs to leave. Been thoroughly underwhelmed with him this season. In general. What other comments have we got? Yeah, stay on Chelsea is never going to say it used to. I agree, but I think there's 2 parts to this, because I kind of agree. I think part of that comes from the fact of something I mentioned earlier. I think the standard of football nowadays is way worse than those times that we used to. Like, there's How many? I'll put it to you this way: how many midfielders in world football right now can you think of that are on the level of your Lampards, Gerrards, Scholes, Vieiras, Keanes, who else in that area? Even you want to go forward a couple of years, your Yaya Torres, David Silva, like maybe 5 to 10, not even 10, maybe 5 that are at that level. I not can get to that level. I'm talking are at that level right now. Like I'm thinking 5. I'm thinking like Rodri, Valverde, Pedri probably. I don't particularly rate Bellingham like that, but I'll include Bellingham. That's 4. You see, like I just don't think football is in a spot nowadays where it's at the same level as it was back when we used to back when we were amazing and back when just football. I think like you remember the Barclays Premier League era, like when you saw your players like Rooney, Lampard, Gerrard, Ronaldo. Christ, I'm forgetting so many, like your Drogba's and Nelkas. Even you want to go on a few years, like your Aguero's, all those guys, like Torres in his prime, Suarez. Jesus, there's so many. I just don't think football currently is in that state anymore. Or at the moment, whether it can get back there, who knows? But I don't think at the moment. And I don't think part of it as well is I think just on a talent level, some of these guys just aren't good enough. Like I'm sorry, but let's just go. I'm trying to think of a good example. Like let's go and attack. I like Jackson. He's not. He's never going to be Drogba. He's never going to be Drogba. And I like Jackson, but he's never going to be Drogba. Because Drogba had this, like, I hate this word, aura about him, right? Where he would just, like, he would have this gravity where he'd pull players in. He'd have the strength. He'd have the touch. He was the, like, one of the most complete forwards I've ever watched in football in the Premier League, where it's like he had kind of a bit of everything. Jackson's not that. He has little bits and pieces of everything, but he doesn't have some of it. Doesn't have the heading ability. He doesn't have like the touch isn't always there, you know. He doesn't really have the ball striking. He doesn't have always have the hold up play. So like I can't like I just don't think these lads have got the ability yet. And I think also the issue is where we've got so many young players. So many of them are just question marks. Like we don't know. Like Palmer could get to the level of Lampard. We have no idea. That's like 6 years in the future where I'm expecting to. Well, we'll know the answer to that or not. Like I'm gonna at that point. I'm nearly mid-30s at that point. Obviously, that's not old for some of the people watching, but that's kind of old for me to think about. In my mid-20s. So yeah, it's just. I think this is the issue with young players. Like it's all just if, buts, and maybes. It's all just question marks. It's all potential. It's all wait and see. It's all you've got to give them 3 years and all that nonsense. And just you can afford to do that with a couple of players. You can't do that with like 12 or like a whole squad. All the players I mentioned about for different reasons. I know most of these come from above, but anything that presses is genuine. The presses I will kind of agree with you on. I think we're seeing this season that the whole press conference stuff is just a bit of like it's just I think I'm trying to word this the right way. I'm not gonna call him a yes man because I think that's a stupid phrase. I think that's a really stupid phrase. But I do think he has this, or he has this job of having to act as a shield to these owners and these sporting directors because he has to take the brunt of stuff. I think the Sanchez stuff for me highlights that. Like, there's something weird, not up with that. I still maintain there's some politicking behind the scenes. I will keep maintaining that until he leaves this football club. To be completely honest with you, I just don't. That is weird. I think that the whole comments around the top 4 and the targets, and then changing his mind, that not being the targets, and he didn't said that. Like, I think so much of it is just him trying to act as a shield, because I think he knows that if he says something out of turn, not to say he can't say something that is like maybe the owners disagree with slightly. It's more if he starts speaking up and saying stuff that's going to cause friction between him and the owners, he'll just get sacked. And I've said this before, if he gets sacked where he's at in his career, there is no guarantee he ever gets back to this level of management again. Excuse me. I think we've seen with managers, like, to use an example of that I know people won't like to hear, and I know people want to say he's doing well at the moment, Frank Lampard. He got sacked from Chelsea, did nothing for like a year, I think, or whatever it was, then got hired by Everton, did nothing at Everton and was terrible, apart from, wait, let me rephrase it. Got him out of relegation, then was terrible, got sacked, then has done nothing for like a year or two again, and then gets hired by Coventry in the Championship, and that's where I think his level's at. But there's no guarantee Lampard ever gets back to managing at Chelsea, a level club again. Let's see, bear with me 1 second, guys. Apologies about that. My dinner just came. But yes, I don't think there's any guarantee these managers get back to the level where, even like a Poch, for example, right? I'm not saying the USMNT is a bad job, and I think there's reasons why he got that. And I think obviously he's the best manager that they've ever had based on like stature in the game and everything. Where like he went and got the USMNT job, and there was no one else coming for him. And that's a manager that has in last season, and I think he's arguably the worst manager we've ever had. He has some stature in the game. He's got to the Champions League most of the time. He got to a Champions League final. You know, he's won League One. He's managed big teams. He can only get the USMNT job. And as I said, that's maybe not fair entirely, but like I said, there's no guarantee for some of these guys. So I kind of understand why he's done it, but it's annoying, and I agree with you. I think I think some of the press conferences, I think we're seeing that now. It's 3 different managers, similar messages. I think it's just a little bit of a mess. Big up to Brian, by the way, with the super chat saying Maresca, scapegoat season 3 loading. I hope not, man. Like, I hope he isn't a scapegoat, and I hope, regardless of what happens, right? And I may feel differently come the end of the season, depending on what happens, but I really hope that unless we have a cataclysmic breakdown, or unless like Sanchez is the reason, even if we don't finish top 4, there's a part of me that hopes he just stays, because you can't do this 4th manager in 4 years nonsense and like think it can work. Like, there has to be a stopping point. And like I said, obviously there's a little bit of context there of like, if he is the reason we don't get top 4, then maybe that's a conversation we have to have if we get sacked. But I can't do another season of just chop and change again, and you having to build a team for another manager, but they won't, and just it's just going to be a mess. And like I said, if he does get sacked, the sporting directors need to leave with him, so we can go and get someone else. And I'll be real, the sporting director market right now is dwindling. We've already seen Andrea Berta agree a deal with Arsenal, and I'm pissed about that. Like, I know some people will say he's just working under Arteta and whatnot, but he's a guy who's been successful at Atletico Madrid, signed very successful players since they've been there, especially attackers. You know, Sorloth, Alvarez, Correa, just to name a few. Managed to replace some big players as well, you know, across the back line, whether that be them finally finding like a replacement for Juan Fran in Molina, managing to find replacements for the likes of Jimenez, or maybe not Jimenez, but like Godin and stuff like that. I think he was there when they brought in Oblak. So yeah, I think he's got a very good track record. Obviously, he has some misses. Everyone does. Gallagher, for example. But yeah, so I'm kind of annoyed he went there. We've looked at Campos. Apparently, that would be I would give my left nut for us to get Sanchez, not Sanchez, to get Campos in as like I think it was like director. No, it wasn't even director of football. It was like, I might be director of, I can't remember what the title was. We were looking to get him in, and I think it would be amazing if we did. Like, he's managed to craft 2 teams to win league titles that should never have won a league title, really. And he's managed to like get the best out of players, whether it's getting the best out of 36 or whatever he was, Burak Yilmaz, building that team, or finding players like Jonathan David, I think he found, out of Belgium, or finding, you know, your Bernardo Silvas, and managing to find some of the guys he did at Monaco. I'm struggling to remember all the guys he found at the top. Like Fabinho, for example, was one of them that I remember. Like just finding all these guys and finding them out of nowhere and finding them from all. We're trying to do this global scouting thing where we're trying to like almost like get all corners of the world. He's done that at 2 different clubs. He's signing players from Portugal, Brazil, Belgium, all over Europe. You know, some in Africa. Like it's even North America, like I mentioned with David. Like he's managed to find all these players. And so yeah, like I'd love him to come in, and then also as well, you get the two morons, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. If they have to stay, they can do their job that they're actually good at, which is scouting. Like I still maintain it's wavered a bit. I will be honest, but from a talent ID perspective, they're still pretty good. Maybe not as good as I originally thought, but they're still like a B minus. I think that's decent. B minus B. They still do manage to hit when it comes to talent ID, like a decent amount of time. And even if they don't, Joe Shields is here, and his talent ID, obviously, it's just a Man City academy, but his talent ID has seemingly worked so far. But yeah, that would be incredible if we got him. But I don't think that's going to happen. And honestly, I just hope that he Maresca isn't sacked, as I said. I hope that they can he can just progress. And as I said, I just in the summer just back him. Go and get in the players that he needs. Don't do this nonsense. Like I said, I'm not Garnachos and bloody Huysons and all these, and having Sanchez in goal again, and no left back and all this, or no backup left back, I should say, or whatever. None of that nonsense. No Delap. Go and sign players that are going to help him from day dot, because we've got very little turnaround time in the summer to start bedding these players in. We go Club World Cup. We've got like maybe a couple, like I think it's like 2-3 weeks, and then the season starts again. So like you've got no time, and that's also why I don't think they should sack him in the summer. As I said, unless it goes completely wrong, but they just don't have time to like turn it around. If you sack him in the summer, you're gonna have to do it after the Club World Cup, or you just use the Club World Cup as a glorified friendly, which, like, considering the money on available, that would be dumb. You do that. You say you sack him after the Club World Cup. You've got like 2-3 weeks to get someone in, so you'd have to have someone ready there and then, which they've never had that ever at any point. Like that's never outside of Potter. They've never at any point had someone ready to come in when they've sacked someone. So yeah, I think that would be stupid, and then you're gonna have to waste time. They're not going to get a preseason. I just think you're causing problems to yourself. But yeah, I said I just hope he continues, and is allowed to continue, and is allowed to progress. Because if he's going to show himself to be not good enough, like I said, the very start or look earlier on in the stream, if he's going to show himself to be not good enough, give him all the tools so he can show that. Don't give him a shit keeper, and then we say, oh, but he's not good enough. He's not getting top 4 with what he's got. He's got a shit keeper. Like that doesn't compute. That doesn't add up, unless he picks the shit keeper, obviously. Only a couple minutes left, guys, and then I'm going to wrap it up, go through a couple more of your questions. With the Jackson thing, by the way, he did play striker. Like, he was a left winger initially when he came through, but he played a lot of the season before we bought him a striker. Still plays a mix for Senegal. Like, he can play both. But, like, he has played striker plenty of times. Was in a 2 more often than not, but it's still something that he did do regularly. As I said, that second season for Villarreal, when he got like the 9 goals in 8 games, I think, or whatever it was. I don't get the Poch comparisons, by the way. Like, we are so much better this season than we were last season. I think anyone that says different is an idiot. Like, respectfully, again, not going to be disrespectful about it, but I think to say that we're in a better position with Poch or it's no different. We didn't get to 5th. Oh no, sorry, we didn't get to 6th until game week 37 last year. Game week 37. We have not dropped lower than 6th, I think, the entire season. I could be wrong. Let me double check, actually, and I'll be able to tell you if I'm wrong. Let me have a look here. I tell a lie. From game week 5, we haven't only dropped out of the top 6 once, which was game week 26. After that, we went back up to 5th. It took us 37 game weeks to get to 6th last season. Like, as bad as it is right now, and as much criticism as people may have for Maresca, myself included, like, he is much better than Poch. He has done way better than Poch for us. Outside of the Cups. That was a mistake. Geezer can a top centre back. I agree, 100%. These no, we should not have stuck with Poch. We should not have stuck with Poch. Poch was the reason for me why we didn't get top 4 last season. He's the reason why we had so many injuries. The main reason, not the only reason. The main reason. He was not good enough. Like I said, it took him 33 game weeks to figure out a game plan. It then, from that point, took him another 3 game weeks before we got 6th. He's the same person who played Chilwell left wing multiple times. He is the same person who decided to change things up after pre-season, literally as the season started, because of one injury to Nkunku. He spent the entire season saying we needed Nkunku back for top 4. We couldn't get top 4 without him. Yeah, he needed to leave. What else we got just before I wrap it up? Way better than Poch. Absolutely. Bad. The Poch season was terrible, brother. Like, I respect the backing, but it was terrible. Like, it was awful. I'll be completely honest. It wasn't the worst season we've ever had, obviously, but it was painful to watch at times. Matson's wingers will be better than Chilwell. Yeah, guys, that's going to be me done for today. You got any other thoughts, feelings, disagree with anything I said, agree with anything I said, drop down in the comments below. I'll try and read a few of those. It's always great to have debate. As I said, even if you disagree with me, as long as you're respectful about it, you can have a debate about it. Happy to do that. As I said, we've got a lot of content coming up. I think we've got a podcast. I think that was recorded today. That should be coming out tomorrow, I believe. Got obviously more shows coming out across the week with Charlie, Alex, everyone. I'm going to be on the Blue Balls podcast, I believe, as well. Coming the end of the week. But yeah, as I said, guys, smash the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe as well. Got a lot of content coming out all across the year. As always, got to follow Chelsea as much as we can. Across everywhere, as Alex showed you, going to Copenhagen. But yeah, guys, big up to yourself. Keep an eye out for the next show, and up the Chelsea.